You're now live.
All right. Hi, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm really grateful for HBCU Hub giving me this opportunity to come in and talk to you guys about scholarships and how to win scholarships, right? So it's one thing to know that scholarships exist, it's a whole other thing to win them. So I'm really thankful to Jonathan Swindell and his team for letting me come and share this information with you all. So I'm going to be sharing a PowerPoint in just a moment. And we can get going. All right, there we go. All right, one more time for the text. All right. Sean, think you can give me a heads up that you can see once I share my screen. That'll help.
Will do. Okay, I can see it.
Perfect. So here's your quick scholarship masterclass, how to win the game of scholarships. I'm Tandy Caraway with College Mode Academy. What I help students do is go to college debt free. Not only do we help them go to college debt free, we help them be prepared to actually graduate from college debt free, guys. So that's really important that you have both skill sets. And again, College Mode Academy, Tandy Caraway. So my story is that I won over $1 million in scholarships before I went off to college. And I didn't realize how rare, in a sense, getting a full ride is. So if you think about it, getting a full ride is actually it's not really popular. Like you see offers out there for athletes, a lot of times they're partials, they're not full. So only 3 in 1,000 students, college students are on a full ride. And that's according to Mark Hentrowitz, who is the publisher of FastWeb. So most of us, if you're out here looking for scholarships or opportunities, you've heard of FastWeb. If you have any questions during this presentation, I would love to hear from you. And HBCU Hub is going to be moderating. So drop your questions, all right? So at College Mode, we created an innovative system that's helping students get between around an 87% success rate with getting full rides. And so I want to make sure that if you're a high school underclassman or senior, or you're a parent, any of these people here, there's actually 3 groups of people that I'm helping with this presentation today. You tune in because it's lots of good information. Here's Valerie. She is working on being an occupational therapist, and she is going debt free. She still has not taken out any loans or anything like that. So here's the truth. I myself had a good GPA, had did all that hard work, had really worked on even my test scores. But in the beginning, I struggled to get scholarships when I first started applying. I did not know what my scholarship application should look like what should be in there, what would make someone give me money. And I was applying all over the place. I knew that I wanted to go into technology. My major was computer science, but I was applying for fire stuff. I was applying for, just anything that came my way. I was applying for the opportunity, not realizing that by me using time towards things that weren't really going to speak to an audience that was giving out money, that I should have been using my time to really hone in on the things that I was good at and sharing that and shine in that area. So I was afraid that I would get stuck at home and not have enough money to go away to college. A lot of students, I'm sure, can identify with that. But I kept plugging away at it and asking questions till I got it right, guys. So even for me, I won that $1 million in scholarships, but it did not start out that way. So we're going to talk about what I did to finally get it right. So is this possible for you if you're a student, or is this possible for your teen if you're a parent? So here's a student, 2.7 GPA, weighted 3.1. He had over $60,000 in scholarships and grants. So here's another student, GPA in high school around a 3.3, very active in community organizations, had multiple leadership roles, some of those roles, and she was offered over $150,000 in scholarships and grants. She is now a freelancer running her own business, like contracting herself out as a copywriter. And her major was English. How many of you have been told, like, that major, you can't find money for it, or that major, you aren't going to be able to do anything outside of school with it? She's actually doing some really, really cool projects with it. So that's another thing to remember. Sometimes we get really focused on just, oh, we're going to college, but remember what your end goal is. Financial freedom so that you can pursue things like her doing a freelance opportunity. She hasn't had to take a regular job because she has the freedom of not having the student loans hanging over her head. So how do you get similar results? We have the full ride guide system. There's 3 secret weapons to this. You need strategy. And you need strategy that works for you. So remember I told you I was like just all over the place applying. It didn't matter what kind of scholarship it was. I needed to learn that there were some people out there specifically looking for students like me, and I needed to be putting my energy towards applying for their scholarship opportunities. And then number 2, you need a toolkit of positioning techniques. Like, how are you positioning yourself? What is your brand, quote unquote, as a student? What is your brand? So when someone reads your scholarship or even your college application, because college applications are scholarship applications. So I'm going to say that because that's a nugget for you to think about. Your college applications are scholarship applications. All right. So I'll come back to that, but that's a nugget. You want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward on that as well. And people should read your application and immediately have some sense of like who you are. They should be able to turn to the person next to them that's on a committee to the left or to the right and say like, hey, I really like this student who looks like they're going to be really involved and help in the future with, I've had students that want to solve environmental issues. I've had students that want to stop human trafficking. Having a bigger goal and a bigger point that they can invest in and go along the journey with you is important. So those positioning techniques. And then you need a solid scholarship application system. You need to build up all the things that go into the scholarship application and not start from scratch with every scholarship application. Scholarships can be very redundant, and you should take advantage of that with all the technology we have. Build you a solid scholarship application so that you can have support. If you need someone to help you look over your stuff, being organized and having a system helps in that way as well. So strategies win campaigns. That's our secret number 1. And I told you, I say that strategies wins campaigns because I want you to think about, we're in an election cycle right now. So every candidate out there has some strategy that they are planning to use or are using to help them win. They don't go out and be like, oh, I want to run for mayor. I want to run for Congress and not have a strategy, guys. They have a strategy. And so the same way they have a strategy to put themselves in the forefront with you as a potential voter, think about yourself. You want the committee members that are reviewing a scholarship to vote for you. When they're saying like who should win the scholarship, you want to get their vote, you want to win their vote. So strategy, you got to put yourself, think about a couple different ways you can go with strategy. There are people looking for you. If you are like, I was African-American female going into STEM. People weren't really using the acronym STEM. I'm dating myself now, guys. People weren't really using the acronym STEM, but they were looking for underrepresented people in technology, which I was one of those people. So me applying to a scholarship with the Dallas area minority engineers made a lot of sense. They gave me a scholarship and they gave me an internship. That made a lot of sense. Me applying for a scholarship with a company that was looking for a business person who's going to come in and do finances or something like that, or marketing. I had no business applying for those scholarships, but I was. So you want to get your angle. I did a lot of community service and I was involved in a lot of organizations that were service-based. So their sister, twin, cousin organizations that are service-based that have scholarships were looking for students like, they were looking for students who invested in their communities at a young age and would come back and invest in the community one day. And so even now, I'm doing that with you all. So you want to think about what your strategy is going to be. What kind of scholarships would be looking for me? Do you have a talent? Are you an artist? If you're an artist, there's the Young Arts Competition. It has tons of opportunities for you to not only be mentored, but also win money and to get into an exclusive network of artists that you can be a member of for a lifetime. So people like Debbie Allen, Viola Davis are part of that. And, you know, when you look at Viola Davis, you look at people that have gone to HBCUs, guys, these are connection after connection after connection. Like those links, your network becomes as wide as the people that you link with. So think about that. Secret number 2, respect other people's positions. So came up with these little cutesy names, but this is really about how are you positioning yourself? What is your quote unquote sound bite, or what is that talking point you're going to get people to talk about? So are you an animal activist? Are you an activist for social justice for Black people? Like, who are you at your core, and what issues are you fighting for yourself and for others? They want to see that. So your positioning of who you are you a leader, but maybe you're not a leader in the community per se, like a traditional community leader. Maybe you're a thought leader behind things you can do to save the environment. Maybe you're a thought leader behind women in STEM. Like you started that journey of like, why don't I see more people looking like me, older versions of me in STEM? I have a student that has ADHD, and she's also started her own business. So she goes around and talks about like the struggle of having ADHD and doing something like running your business at her age. She talks about mental wellness. So you want to position yourself in such a way that they're able to talk about you. But you also want to position yourself so that you meet several scholarship criteria. So scholarships have GPA cut points. So 2.5, 3.0, 3.25, 3.5, 3.75 are very common cut points, meaning scholarships will say students have to at least have this minimum criteria. Scholarships like Gates, they were asking for test scores again. So you want to position yourself where your test scores will get you. If you're looking for a scholarship like the Gates Scholarship Program, look at what their criteria is and position yourself to be well ahead of that, okay, to meet that criteria and be competitive with it. So meeting the GPA requirement, meeting the test score requirement for a scholarship like Gates, that's not enough to win the scholarship, or Coca-Cola. That's not going to be enough. That's going to get you in the door. That's the requirement. That's the door. That's the cover charge. That's the requirement to get in the door. Then you have to have something on top of that. So what is that thing? Are you an entrepreneur that's out here solving real problems? Are you an entrepreneur that's going to create an economic powerhouse that will help solve the wealth gap problem for Black students and for Black families in the future? Whatever that is. So what I like to think is like, what problem do you want to solve in the future? Position yourself that way. Okay. And then position yourself academically, grades, position yourself leadership wise, so they see you as a leader. You tell people I'm a leader, but they need to see you. So do leadership activities so that you have stories to tell behind that. Have something about you that just uniquely stands out. It could be athletics. It could be, like I said, it could be arts. It could be performing arts. It could be a lot of different things, but you need to find something that stands out. It's going to help you adapt to college, because you're going to know, like, I'm looking for these kind of people to connect with when you get to college too. Number 3, looking at the time, guys, systems make the world go around. So, you're a student. Certain things run like clockwork at a school. You got a bell schedule. You know how that works. You come in the first day of school, you run on that cycle unless something special happens at the school and you have another schedule or a different schedule. The same thing in the scholarship world. You want to make sure that you create a system. Do you have all of your recommendations? Like, don't get 2 recommendations and say, I'm gonna apply for scholarships and try to get enough money to pay for a school that is $30,000, $40,000, guys. You're gonna catch it. You're gonna catch it because you need to apply to quite a bit of scholarships to make that happen for yourself. So you should have recommendations. This is a tip. In your system, part of your scholarship system, have recommendations from all the people that you have worked with. So if you've been on the track team, that's somebody that would know you, your work ethic. They would know if you're coachable, if you take advice from people, if you're coachable, if you take feedback well. If you were a part of National Honor Society, doing those service projects, did you come up with ideas? Were you passionate about serving others? Is that showing your work ethic there? If you're an artist and you have won an art award, you could get something from that organization possibly, or just put your art award in your system. But you want to have letters of recommendation. If you worked with and under an adult, get a letter of recommendation. And then you don't want to just have 2 teachers, because sometimes a scholarship will ask for a specific kind of teacher. So if you're in one of those schools with a specialized area like business, STEM, I have a student that's in choir, theater, performing arts, dance, any of that stuff. If you're in any of those things, those cluster teachers, those career teachers should be part of the people that you're getting your recommendations from. So you want to have a portfolio of recommendations. Actually, you want to have a portfolio of essays. You want to have all of your demographic data with little short blurbs that you're talking about each activity, each thing that you've been a part of. If you try to keep doing that on the fly every time, you're going to burn out, guys. So you want to put a system together where you have that stuff in the cloud and you have it on paper, because there's still paper scholarships out there and you can get it out fairly easy. All right, so what we do at College Mode, we have a little recipe here, and we use those secrets that we told you in our recipe. These are strategic actions that we do at each stage that a student goes through. So you can think of stages almost like grade levels, but you want to ensure your academic success, your test scores, your writing skills, whether you're writing an essay or a resume, or just filling out documentation. Like, does it look good? Does it communicate what you need to communicate about yourself? Cash or college, understanding that could be cash contests. It could be fellowships where you earn a stipend instead of just volunteering your time, right? That you get volunteer hours and earn a stipend. Scholarships and grants, waivers. So some schools offer tuition waivers and waivers for dependents of what we call like first responders. All of those things are ways to basically get cash, reduce the price of college. So make sure you're not limiting where your money could be coming from. Be diverse about that and looking what makes sense, again, for you to access. Career planning, why is that important in scholarships? Well, a lot of scholarships want to know, what do you plan to do? The other thing is, if you change your major after a certain point, you're going to end up taking more classes, which cost more money than you would have if you had started out in one major and stuck with it all through your 4 years, 3-4 years in college. I say 3 or 4 years because we have College Mode graduates that are coming out in 3 years, guys, and they aren't necessarily students who were in early college and had an associate's degree, but they know what they wanted, got in, went after it. So make sure that you understand that not having a career plan is also a reason why you would need more money for college. Make sure that you're having college adventures, meaning that you're interacting. Like the HBCU Hub app is a perfect example of a virtual adventure you can go on. Got a question here. Love it. When's the best time to get letters of recommendation? So in this new post-COVID, during COVID world, I think every year in the spring is a great time to get recommendations for a few reasons. Number one, unfortunately, school staff are not as stable as they once were. So you cannot assume that the best teacher to give you a recommendation is going to be there in the fall. And in the fall, at the very beginning of the senior year, teachers are really, really busy. And the other thing is you should be applying for summer activities like summer camps, exploration things, and opportunities. And those require recommendations as well. So you don't want to wait until the last minute till you have like a 1-week deadline. Go ahead, if you know you're going to be applying, like right now, as students looking at their summer programming, go ahead and ask for those recommendations you might need for those summer programs, guys. So I think every spring that you're in high school, you should, because if you're doing this thing right, you're going to need them. And then, so HBCU Hub is a virtual college adventure you can go on and connect and network with college recruiters, but you can also go and do 360 virtual tours of colleges. You can go in person. There's a lot of different things you can connect, and social media groups now with, students that are already at the school. You can form groups with the same cohort graduation class, all those things. You should be going to college fairs, connecting with college and getting into college culture and really understanding what college is and looks like. So you understand it's not an extension of high school per se. It's really the launch pad for adulthood if you're going to college. And so that network is your net worth. That starts with, people think about, I'm gonna build my network in college. I have had students that have networked and got full ride scholarships just from networking. Last year at our Debt Free College Summit, we had somebody talk about the strategies they use and we've used with students. All right, personal development. Why is personal development important in scholarship process? Like, it doesn't have anything to do with anything. It absolutely does. That burnout that I was talking about, if you don't manage your mental wellness, if you don't manage and grow your character, you will burn out and stop applying for the money, even though you actually need it, guys. So I think it's really, really important. The students I see that succeed have some level of proficiency, and then in some areas they're even stronger, but they have a level of proficiency with all of this that allows them to excel. And it allows them to do these 3 things that we talked about. Doing those things involve having your strategies, your positioning, and your application system. So if you follow those things, you're naturally going to hit the other 3. So what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail as a teen, or if you're a parent? You go after what you want. So I'm not going to go through this because we don't have as much time for this particular presentation, but I do want to talk about this one stage here. Typically, this stage happens around 10th, 11th grade. The parent is like, stay on top of those grades. We need to start getting ready for SAT, ACT. How can we make sure we can afford college? And the parents pushing. If you're the student, you're working hard on your grades. You're doing what the adults say if you're serious about it. You're taking that advice. You're doing service, but you're still not quite sure what you want to do, how you're going to pay for college, and where you're going. And this is where the pressure starts to happen. That's why I wanted to stop and talk about it before we take Q&A. A lot of people get stuck here. You mentally get stuck here and you never get to the money. Like, you get stuck here and start moving slow. And by the time you get back on, you're figured out, apply for college, but you didn't figure out the money piece, not realizing just like those colleges have deadlines to get applications in, there's money deadlines that are happening, but most people don't even see the money deadlines that are happening because they're so behind with the application process. So here's another thing. Your college applications, I strongly, strongly, strongly suggest that if at all possible, you get 90 to 100% of it done before school starts your senior year. Get it done. Common App opens August 1st. So you have that window, like going in past Labor Day, you're going to be missing money left and right. Big scholarships are going to be open. And you're going to be like, I can't even answer. Some of these want an acceptance letter. Some of these want this, and you won't have the things they're asking for. So that's just a nugget I wanted to make sure I share with you guys. So we're at the point of Q&A. So you understand what I did was I got really smart and said, hey, I've been a leader and I've been out here serving. And what I can promise them that's part of who I am. I like serving and teaching just like I am now. I've always liked this since I was younger. So I'm going to sell myself as a person who's going to come back and sow into their community. I'm going to sell myself as somebody who's going to come up with innovative things and ideas and use technology, which I have my master's in educational technology. So that's one way I use tech now. And I'm building an app with my business. And so on some level, we all have a purpose. Tapping into that now and telling that story for scholarships is what gets you the money, guys. You have to be able to do that. Your student, you as a student need to be able to share your story in written form and in an interview. That's where the money is.
Love that. Love that. Thank you for taking the time out today, Tandy. I'm waiting for questions inside the group chat, but I'll also be asking you some questions. One of the first being, can you tell us a little bit about your road to 1 million scholarships? How many scholarships did you have to fill out? Was it all big money scholarships? Did you find yourself using the same essay? Can you kind of break that down for us?
Break that down some more. He's like, break it down, break it down. All right. So starting like my road to that million really started with a couple decisions. Sophomore year, I was ranked number 2 out of 1,000 students at my high school. I was at a very large high school. And the counselor said, you're gonna have to go to summer school. And I was like, who want to go to summer school? I've been working hard. No summer school. She's like, no, you're gonna have to go to summer school. You don't have to write classes or write credits. And it hit me in that moment, this lady, I'm not gonna make it to college. If she's the counselor in charge of that, I'm not gonna make it. I have to get out of here and find some real help now. Because I knew I wanted to go, but I had just been trying to do what I told you guys in that step, what usually happens, keep my grade up, be active, that kind of thing. But in that moment, I realized I wasn't gonna have the support as first generation college student, first in my family to go. I didn't have it at home. So I knew I had to be in an educational place where I was going to have that support. So I transferred high school to a school where I did my homework, where those kids were getting scholarships. So I knew that the support was there for that. So I went over to that high school and got busy building my network, got busy making relationships with the adults and getting involved in the things I liked. You don't have to do stuff you don't like. That's something else I want to let kids know. You don't have to do things you don't like. I was doing stuff I liked. But even in that, me coming in on the second half, I didn't have a relationship with a counselor. I didn't have one. So when PSAT came, there was a group that got more comfortable accommodations. They got to take their test in the classroom. I was stuck taking it in a big lecture hall with one of those little triangle, like imagine you got like the test sheet, the answer, the scratch paper, the answer sheet, and the test booklet. And you're trying to take this test off fast paced and you're really serious because you know there's scholarship money tied to it. It was hard. So in that moment, I was like, okay, they underestimated me. Bet. I've been studying for this moment because I did go to a summer camp for my test scores. And that's one thing I feel like we mess up on as African Americans, as Black people. Like we don't understand there's money tied to our actions well before the college application is due. And there's opportunities in network like Jack Kent Cooke Scholarship, where they start tracking students as early as 7th grade. And when you look at the students who got their big scholarships, half of them are students that have been with them since middle school. So there are pipelines to the scholarship money that we never even get into the pipeline. So by me going to that summer camp, I put myself in a pipeline and I took it seriously. But my test day accommodations were less than perfect, but I still had to show up. That's the only opportunity I had to show that skill set and get into that pipeline at that moment. So I did, and I became a national merit semifinalist and a national achievement scholar. That shifted and changed the game because colleges were looking for me in that sense. Now, did I understand what colleges were looking for me? Remember, I'm a first generation student and nobody's having like necessarily ongoing conversations. Like there's these, I call it the breadcrumb trail, like Hansel and Gretel. Like something will happen, they have a conversation, Tandy comes to the office, fill this out. I come over there, fill it out because the adults said to do it. Let's go. They say it's best for me, I'm doing it. And that's basically what was happening. So when scholarships came senior year, I got a couple, like after I guess my PSAT scores came out, colleges were sending me things, but I didn't understand really what was happening at that point. And I knew I didn't necessarily have like the money for sure. Like I didn't feel like this is good. Like I got money in the bank. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel like that. So senior year came around and I was, prior to that, I saw somebody get a lot of scholarships around me, somebody that I had been connected with. And I asked her, how did you get that money? And she tried to give me, I think what Jonathan's trying to say, I didn't break it down. She tried to give me the smooth version. I was like, tell me how you got the money. And one thing she said was the counselor relationship. She said, that'll blow everything. She's like, you came over here because of the counselor situation, but did you actually build a relationship and a rapport? Because they're going to be asking her to recommend students for things. And I wasn't the only national merit semifinalist at my school. It was a very competitive class. So it didn't automatically mean my name was going on that paper. I had to go over there and have that conversation about who I was and where I wanted to be. Let her know if she shows up with an opportunity, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna show up and put my best foot forward. So that was a thing by itself. Students, all that kicking, you know, you got your favorite teacher, that's all good. Even if the counselor doesn't love you, that's not your problem. You need a solid working professional relationship. You need to know that if a scholarship comes up, like I had a student waited to the last week. I think it was a scholarship was due on the 15th. So we were meeting on the Thursday before, 5 days before. She has a solid working relationship with a counselor. Because guess what? It had a form to fill out and everything. She got it in the mail on the 15th. You need that because there are going to be opportunities that come last minute. It's just inevitable. I think, Jonathan, you can attest to that, right? Even you're going after that. So I'll speed up a little bit because I see another question. But long story short, I took that advice of that student, built a relationship with a counselor, kept showing up. Scholarship opportunities came. I sacrificed. This is something else people don't want to talk about. I sacrificed my lunchtime, being with my friends sometimes. I sacrificed after school time. I sacrificed some sleep or telephone time back then. You know, I sacrificed. That would equate to getting off of social media, guys, or building you a squad that y'all all going so hard after the same thing that it doesn't even seem strange, because me and my friends would go to the library. I worked with a friend at the symphony and we had little tuxedos that we had to wear as part of our usher jobs. We had scholarships in our pocket. When those doors closed, we were sitting there exchanging, you know, we would exchange scholarships before we go up to the floor. And we had pens and paper filling out our scholarships. Sometimes we had 2 copies. We fill out the draft while, you know, because it was going to be messy. And then we knew we could get the real copy done later. You got phones now. You guys have so much opportunity that just put in the time. You don't have to give up everything. I had a great senior year in terms of what I was able to access and do. But you have to be willing to make some sacrifices. One of my students said it this way. She's like, you can have the best year of your life senior year, and struggle for 4 years and even after that, because maybe you're paying for student loans for 10 years after that, you know, or you can sacrifice and then pick the things that you really, really want to do senior year, do those things. And on the everyday side, make scholarships a priority and you can live your best life. So she swear a lot of time I'm like jealous of my kids. I'm like, y'all living y'all best life because they know they have the money. I didn't. I struggled and kept filling it out to the very end. Because I didn't realize I had the money already, but they gave me $20,000 in refunds. So I'll take it. You see this other, let me know what the other question is, Jonathan.
The next question we have from the chat is, what would be the best way to get started with the process? A binder, Google Sheets? How do you keep everything organized?
Definitely think a binder and invest in a big binder. Don't be cheap. Even, you know, I have a partner, she brought me like 20 for my kids because they are expensive. Those binders literally can be $20 at Office Depot or Office Max. But get you like a good 3-inch to 4-inch binder. Get sheet protectors and start collecting your stuff in there. You can start organizing it by those categories. That go pull out a scholarship application and you'll see, how do they ask questions? They ask like, what extracurricular activities you were in, what service things were you in, what awards did you win? They break them out into categories. So set your folder up for success that same way. If you have like digital things like press releases, like not press releases, but actual press, like you were on the news or you were interviewed on the radio. Those are things that you can put links to. You can put links to that on a Google Doc. So whatever you have digital, we're in this in-between phase. It's not all digital, it's not all paper. So I suggest you set up the folder because it gives you that. For me, I organizing things physically helps me organize my brain. So it's probably, for me, it's better to do the binder first and then go duplicate that in the cloud and get things organized that way. But just in the very beginning, I've seen people like they set up emails just to send documentation to, so it's all in one place. Like they set up a documentation email for their kids' college. Sometimes parents do that. So there's a lot of different ways, but I think the binder is really my favorite way to get started, because you can even write notes to yourself in the binder, right? You can put loose leaf paper in there and be like, oh, did some service this day, and come back and clean that up later. The other thing I suggest that people don't think about is getting go on Google and do community service verification form or something like that, hours form. Get you a form where you basically, anytime you perform service, you have a person verify and sign before you leave that day, and keep those in the binder and the sheet protector. That way you know what you actually did. Okay, and then if you have to ask, then when you ask for a recommendation, you can give them back copies of that and say, here's, the things I did with you. You can have a little reflection at the bottom, hand that back to them. Give people everything they need to write the best recommendation ever for you. Stockpile it for them. Make it easy for them. You're going to get it back quicker and it's going to be better.
Loving the advice. Loving the advice. We have a couple more questions before we close out. The first one being, so if there was a number that you would recommend to students, how many scholarships should a student apply for their senior year going into college? What's that number that they should definitely hit?
My minimum is 50. Absolute minimum is 50. The thing is, it's like riding a bicycle. Your little tires be wobbling to the side when you take the training wheels off. You don't kind of got it together. Could you win with one of those applications? Absolutely. But realizing that you get better with this process and you do reuse things. Essays, I did reuse them. I have my students write what's called a remix ready essay, where they can take pieces of it out. So definitely 50 is the minimum. $100,000 typically is the number you want to go for. So the kid is not like I do a minimum on both ends, a minimum of 50 a minimum of $100,000. If you aren't getting money from the college, that number needs to go up because you're not going to win 100% of the scholarships you apply for. That's just how scholarships work. It's just like customers coming in a dealership. Salesman ain't gonna get all of them, but he can try.
Like that a lot. Like that a lot. And this next question is actually a follow-up question on regards to the binder. So keeping a record of everything, is it a good idea to start as early as that student's freshman year in high school?
Actually, I have a good friend, a good colleague. She suggests around 4th or 5th grade, actually. And I kind of agree with her with that, and I'll tell you why. Although the applications are going to say like only put activities starting since freshman year, sometimes we don't realize, now they're not saying, so say if you've been in Girl Scouts since the 3rd grade, you get to put that Girl Scout started in the 3rd grade if you're still doing it all the way through high school. So for that reason, that's why we're saying to start earlier. And then if you've been doing like STEM hobby activities, like you've gone to STEM camp every year since 4th or 5th grade, and you like that's a thing that's been running that deep, you want your application to show that. So a lot of times we don't know what we've been doing or what's really been there because we haven't documented. But when we write it down, we realize like I had a student that was in the rural area. She was doing every STEM thing she could get her hand on, but her initial application didn't show anything in STEM, even though she wanted to be an engineer. And we went back and I'm like, you had to get some of this stuff I know you got from being around a STEM person. Like, how did you get it? And she finally said, oh, I did this weekend. I did this, I did that. And I said, so you're gonna call that, we're gonna give that a name of like STEM exploration on your application and then give examples of what you've been doing. Because hobbies are allowed on your college application, which I said is also a scholarship application. Yeah. So 4th, 5th grade, actually.
Okay, thank you for that. And as we close out, wanted to know where can parents and students go to interact with the College Mode Academy? What's you guys' Instagram? And what's the best email for them to reach out to you on as well?
All right, so we have a parent group on Facebook, getscholardollars.com. We have a debt-free roadmap in there. We have a free mini course. It's the jam. If you go over there and start looking for stuff, lots of content, lots of stuff over there. We post scholarships over there fairly regularly. We kind of do them in spurts. That is the best place for parents to interact with me. For students, a lot of time, and I know you guys aren't on Facebook, so a lot of times what students will do is if they have a Facebook account, they'll follow me. But if you're trying to reach me by email and reach out that way, you can get me at tandy@collegemodeacademy.com. tandy@collegemodeacademy.com. You can reach out that way, and you can actually text me. So that's something else. So my text number, 844-928-3780. So those are 2 ways you can reach out if you're not a parent. If you're a student, you can reach out there. And if you text me, I'll send you a goodie tonight. I have some resources that I can send you if you shoot me a text. So again, that's 844-928-3780.
Got it. And we actually have one last question that just came in right now. What site would you recommend for scholarships?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Strategy. Favorites. Going Mary is a favorite. It's like sometimes like training wheels, kind of, but students like it, and I've had students win scholarships on there, so I'm pro that. Peterson's has been around the scholarship game forever, so they are very trustworthy when it comes to scholarships. So Peterson's is a great site to go to. supercollege.com. Jen and Kelly Tanabe, husband and wife team, They have been around for a very long time as well. So those are places I would go and get started and look. Your local scholarships are going to be at your counselor's office and your school's office in the surrounding neighborhoods around you. So remember, national a lot of times means you're going to have a lot more competition. Those local scholarships. So I won scholarships as low as $300 and as much as, that's a good question. I guess the whole full shebang for college, whatever it was back then. Whatever it was back then. I think there's a local group who gave me a book stipend and money for college. So I think I got like $1,800 a year for like just money for school. And then I got another 900 or something for like for books, for supplies. So, and then we had mentoring support from them. So, and then I think the other one would be probably the 8,000 from the Dallas Alliance of Minority Engineers, because I think I had 1,000 or 2,000 a year from them. It's like 8,000 plus an internship with Lucent Technologies.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. And I want to confirm that number is 844-928-3780, right?
3780. That's correct. Did I answer the last question? I feel like I was about to say something else and forgot.
The last question was, what site would you recommend for scholarships?
Yes. So what I was going to add to that, do not find your 5 or 6, like 5 really sites that have scholarships that fit you and use those sources. Do not try to scour 10 sites or whatever. It's going to overwhelm you and you're just going to give up at some point. I would also say find you 2 or 3 social media outlets that are putting out scholarships on a regular basis as well. So Louisiana Office of Student Financial Aid, so LOFSA, they put out a lot of scholarships. So that's one social media outlet I would definitely follow.
Got it. Thank you for that, Tandy. We are coming up on the top of the hour. Really want to say, we appreciate you taking the time out to speak to the students here at the HBCU Hub app, hoping that some parents reach out and apply. We really got some good engagement. As we close out, is there any final messages that you have for the students?
Stay encouraged. You got to stay the course. Like I've had students that it felt like they weren't winning, but they wore 4 scholarships in a day, 5 scholarships in a month. So stay the course. With anything that's new, you got to build your snowball before it gets the real traction, guys. So I want you to stay encouraged and remember you're playing the long game. Your financial freedom is really what's at stake when you apply for scholarships or you don't apply for them. And so even though you can't see that ball and chain that's going to be around your ankle financially, remember there's a cost, the cost of regret of not doing scholarships and getting to that point. The cost of that mentally is so much more on your finances, your mental, everything. That regret costs so much more than the effort of going ahead and putting out there and getting the money. Putting the applications out there and getting the money. So stay encouraged and remember, I promise you, you don't want that regret. You don't want that regret. Yeah. It's a lot of the last 2 generations that have that debt, and it's almost like they don't feel like they can ever realize the American dream until that debt is gone. And it's probably true. It's probably true. So I don't want to tell you education is the key to you being more successful without saying it's really that debt-free education or low debt education is that key. Because if you're fully in debt, there's no freedom with that. Yeah. So stay encouraged and stay the course and get to the money.
Definitely. I love the gems being dropped. We appreciate it again, Tandy. We look forward to having you on soon. And thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. We'll go ahead and close this session. To all the users, this will be on the app for the next 24 hours. So invite your friends and your parents as well to check out this information.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much again for having me. I enjoyed this.
Definitely.